Hello.
Hi, Julianna. How are you?
How are you doing? I'm well. Thank you for asking.
I'm seething with anger. Thank you for asking.
Which one of the reasons are you seething with anger about today? We have many.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to keep track of, but the verification. We already knew that Trump knew that the pandemic was dangerous. We already knew that he underplayed it, but to hear it from his own mouth, the fact that he's telling elite journalists what he should have been telling the public, and then just lying to the American people is, and the consequences of that is just stunning to me. And I think that, if there's one thing that people take away from this discussion, I hope that it is that I've interviewed a number of epidemiologists and public health experts, and they all agree that having consistent communication grounded in science from credible public health experts is not one aspect of containing a pandemic. It is centrally important, because what it does is it gets the public to buy into the kind of collective action that is required. And absent that, we get exactly what we have seen, with people resisting wearing masks, with governors refusing to shut down their economies. All of that springs from Trump's denial of the reality that he knew that this was an extremely dangerous disease, that it spread rapidly through airborne transmission, and was significantly more fatal than the flu. And we don't even know what kind of long-term effects. We're seeing a lot of reports from the medical community of various effects that we focus on the death toll, but people are they're observing cardiac problems, ongoing brain problems, ongoing pulmonary problems, et cetera, and it's it all could have been avoided. And it's the ripple effect that I hope people understand. If Donald Trump had lied about everything else, everything but the severity of this disease, we would not have this anti-mask, all of these drama queens in the anti-mask movement going out there. We would not have COVID trutherism. The conservative media takes its cue from Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had lied about everything else but said this is a very deadly disease, they would not have spent months and months and months telling people that this is a hoax, that it is being exaggerated by Democrats and the media to hurt Trump politically. They could have blamed China. He could have said, China is trying to kill us. Let's take this seriously. And the ripple effects would have been entirely different. We'd be looking at an entirely different pandemic. And I think that we would be in a position similar to Europe. We would now be opening up cautiously. We would have spared tens and tens of thousands of deaths. We might have kept tens of millions of jobs. It is a crime. It's a heinous crime. And the legacy media is not able to say that. They have to, because of their own conventions, they have to portray this in horse race terms. There's a lot of focus on how this affects the race. The politics are secondary. So that's what I'm pissed off about.
Well, yeah, and the people are tangibly feeling this. I mean, no one's talking about how, I lost my grandmother, or this just trickles down into destroying people's lives. For every person who has gotten sick and every person who has died, there's an enormous network of people who are hurt and in pain around this. The Financial Times, as you pointed out, reported that Trump's hesitancy to acknowledge the threat was driven primarily by concerns that doing so could send ripple effects through the markets. Do you want to make a comment about that?
Yes, I mean, look, this was reported at the time, right? We knew this. Jared Kushner was especially concerned about how this would affect the market. This was all about Trump's reelection campaign. Their central pitch, Trump came into this year unpopular and trailing Joe Biden throughout all head-to-head polls last year, had him trailing both Biden and other Democratic primary candidates. And, his central pitch was that there was a strong economy. You may not like me. You may not like the stupid Twitter rants. You may think I'm an oaf and a bore, but the economy is hot. Mm-hmm. So that was their central pitch. Mm-hmm. And instead of worrying about the well-being of Americans, they just were solely focused on keeping the markets from spooking. When he says in his defense, so after the fact, he said in his defense, well, I was trying to project strength and I was trying to avoid panic. Nobody should be fooled that he was trying to avoid panic among the American people. This is the guy who, talks about American carnage and says cities are on fire and, there are anarchists coming to kill you, caravans of invaders. This is not a person who is concerned about panicking the public. He actually thrives on panic, at least panicking, conservatives who watch Fox News. He was concerned about panicking investors. Full stop.
We understand that he is a liar. How is it that this particular lie? I mean, didn't people just figure this anyway? Like, how did this?
I saw a lot of this on social media. We all knew this. It's a nothing burger. It's not new. And I think that underestimates the degree to which, our polarization and our media siloing creates two different universes. So there was no news here per se. There was him saying it on tape, and the way that he and frankly, I mean, even though I knew this was happening, to hear him say it so casually was infuriating. But the significance is that although they're working on it, you can't deny. Nobody's saying it's a deep fake. Nobody's claiming yet, I'm sure they will, that this was a fake recording, but it's him on tape. It's him on tape. And you can cut that in, you can intercut that with what he was saying to the public. I mean, it is stunning. It really is stunning. Just the chronology is stunning as well. I mean, he's had that first interview with Bob Woodward on the same day that the State Department touted shipping 17.8 tons of donated PPE to China. So that on the day that he says this is airborne, this is tricky, this is very deadly, much deadlier than even severe strains of the flu, they're touting, oh, we sent all of this donated PPE to China because we're so benevolent, and that was in part just projecting that we have it under control when we clearly did not.
So this reflects Trump's concern more obviously about the stock market than about people, as you've laid out for us. Yeah. How do you think the public will respond to this news? I mean, some people voted for him because they're like, we need a businessman in there and get out. Sorry about the accent. It's how I picture
it's a awful
people who would think this.
Awful hick accent there. You got to work on that.
Not to hick it up too much.
You got to work on that. People. I don't know. Yeah, so I hear you.
I'm doing a middle of the road anyway.
I hear you. Yeah.
The public people said they wanted a businessman. They didn't want politics as usual, and this is what they got.
All right. So I kind of want to. I have 2 points to make on how the public will respond. First of all, there is a tendency to say, "Oh, his base. They don't care. They don't care. Nothing will. Someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, yeah. And that's I find that a kind of a false sophistication, because yes, it's obviously true with his base, and what people need to understand is that he absolutely positively cannot win with his diehard base. There are soft Trump supporters. There are Republicans who are partisans who just It's the default position that they are Republicans. They vote for the Republican. There are Republicans who don't like him at all, but like conservative judges, like what they think are his policies. There are people who only consume conservative media and actually believe that he is doing a great job. It isn't the case that the entire 42.7% of people who say he's favorable as of this morning in 538's average are unshakable. When he was doing
who are these people? I'm sorry. I want to shake them right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. But like when they were, his approval rating was consistently 7 points below what it has been in the last year, in 2017 when they were trying to repeal the ACA. So it is not true that his numbers never move. It's just not true. And you don't need massive shifts. Nothing is going to cause his support to drop from 43% to 27%, right? That's not going to happen. But if you can shave 2% off in an election like that, that could mean the difference between winning the Senate and not winning the Senate.
How accurate are these polls?
You should ignore all the polls and focus only on the averages. It's always striking to me that every savvy political observer says, "Oh, ignore individual polls. They're noisy. They have variation. They're small samples. Focus on the average." They aggregate all of these samples, so you have tens of thousands of respondents, and they're much less noisy and they don't move around as much. So focus on that. And then those same people are like, "Oh, look, there's a new poll. Let's obsess over it." So I think the polling is broadly accurate if you pay attention to the averages. But I want to make one more point about public opinion. One of the other stories that we have right now is Trump calling fallen troops saps, or not saps, losers and suckers, right? And the revelation and trashing his generals, calling them pussies, and generally disparaging the military. That is a story about Trump's character. It is not a story about Trump causing substantive harm to the American people. I believe very firmly, and I'm a polling obsessive. I've pored over this for 4 years now. My belief is that Trump's numbers move to a degree, not by huge swings. They move down when the media is focused on the harms that he's caused to the American people. They do not budge at all when the big story is Trump is an asshole, because Trump's character is baked into public opinion of this guy, and it has been for years.
So are you saying that him just saying that the soldiers are losers is not really as impactful?
I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't think it's going to budge anything. I don't. If you I
think if we were at war, it would, because he would be sending these losers in to get killed, right? But we're not.
Well, if we were at war and he was sending those losers in to get killed, then that would be about harms that he was causing other people. Mm-hmm. Right. So I really do have this framework in my head, and so far it's borne out: harms versus character. People don't remember this, but when the Access of Hollywood pussy grabbing tape came out, it caused the same freak out on the right. It caused the campaign to panic, and a lot of predictions that would be the end for Trump. You had Republicans, condemning the remarks. Paul Ryan, if you'll remember, canceled an event with Trump over that. It's just all this, and it did not move his favorability numbers at all. Not at all. They stayed rock solid. And why was that? Well, the thing is, with a Trump character story, some people like that about him. Some people like that he's an asshole. Some people like that some people associate being brutish and they associate that with being an alpha male or whatever. There is a group of Americans that likes that about him. There is another group, Republicans, who don't like that, but have made the calculation long ago that they're willing to tolerate his character because he's not a Democrat or because of the judges or whatever, tax cuts, what have you. They made a calculation. They don't like this stuff. They don't like his character, but they're still with him. And then you have the rest of us, and we are a majority of Americans. There's no silent majority. You have a majority of Americans who think this guy is a scumbag. And these stories don't move us at all because they're just confirmation of what we already know. So the point that I'm making is that when it's a story about Trump's character, there's nothing new about Trump's character. That guy has been a dirtbag since he was gaming the tabloids to report on him banging porn stars in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing new here. He was mobbed up. He screwed over small contractors who worked on his properties. He left investors holding the bag when his projects failed. He ran fraudulent scams, right? This is all well known. He used his charity to buy a freaking portrait of himself to put up in his own fucking house.
Yep.
Right? This guy is a dirtbag. We elected a dirtbag president. So everybody knows this. And a character story, what does it do? Oh, we go, oh, what a dirtbag. Well, this guy's a dirtbag. Yes. Yes. Now, a harm story is different because while you know all of his character flaws and it's baked into the cake, it's not news. When they start driving the refrigerator trucks up to deal with the corpses, well, that's news. That didn't happen in 2019. That didn't happen back in the 80s, you know? So that's my thesis. And
you said that Trump's negligence is a crime against humanity in your recent piece. And you use the word, which I think we can all agree on, given the outcome. You use the word negligence. I don't really... Is that an accurate terminology? My thought is it's not necessarily negligence. It's just a prioritization that is not in line with having the American populace in your care.
Yeah, at some point there are questions about the degree to which he is the degree to which he has accepted a large amount of death toll because it has disproportionately hit people of color. I don't think that that's the primary motivation. That would be
a bonus for him.
That would be something else, right? That would be a different degree of crime. I think it's clear that he is a malignant narcissist who is incapable of having any kind of recognition that other people matter. Well,
I think the narcissism actually is at play here because narcissists
absolutely.
never admit that they don't know something. So he just said, "Oh yeah, I knew that," and
yeah, absolutely. The narcissism is central to his entire deviant presidency. I mean, there was one of the former Obama staffers was talking about on Twitter how they did an analysis and they found that the Affordable Care Act benefited most in a couple of red states that hated them and thought that they were Kenyan interlopers, and they rejoiced. They rejoiced about that. They were happy that they were able to help a bunch of right-wingers who hate them. And that's just a degree of understanding of what the presidency is. I mean, it's a cliche that you should be the president to all Americans. You run a campaign appealing not necessarily to all Americans, but then if you win, you should govern on behalf of them. And it's a cliche, but if you step back, it's actually incredibly important, right? I mean, it is incredibly important to approach with that attitude. So, yeah, it all comes down to Trump is obsessed with re-election, in part, I think, because he enjoys the immunity from prosecution that you get when you're in the White House. So he's not going to have that anymore. Do you think he'll be? And in very large part because of his ego and his narcissism. Sorry.
Do you think that he'll be able to be prosecuted for this or many other things that he? I mean, this is I would say an international crime, because it's not like disease in the U.S. just stops here at the border.
If I had to, I mean, let me say this. You will never go broke betting on elite impunity. So, I mean, for the most part, we don't hold people like this accountable. And
I like what you said about the hurt people kind of thing. Like, no one cares about the stories that he's a jerk, and they all care about the stories about, like, how does his jerkness actually hurt you? It's unfortunate that you can't see, like, putting a jerk in is not ever going to work out well.
Right.
Like, take the dating advice.
Yeah, there's an association.
Put it with the regular advice about
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, his character causes the harms in always, whether directly or indirectly. But I think that he is vulnerable to prosecutions for financial crimes at the state level. I absolutely do. I think that this guy has been running a crime organization for many, many years. I think there's a ton of evidence out there. I don't think he's ever been investigated in a serious way. And I think that it is possible that he will be prosecuted for all sorts of far more, relative to the crime of killing hundreds of thousands of Americans through his gross negligence, his gross incompetence. I think there's a chance that he will be prosecuted for far more trivial crimes, ripping people off, running fraudulent, he's long run scams. Maybe there'll be a money laundering charge. Once you dig into the hood, once they don't have immunity and they get into those taxes, I don't know. It's entirely possible that he will face.
And then there's the whole association with Epstein. If anyone's still digging into that, who knows? I mean, there's a lot.
I don't think he'll be held responsible for this, and that's a crying shame.
Josh Holland, contributor to The Nation, contributing editor to AlterNet, and the host of We've Got Issues. Thanks for being with us. What's coming up on We've Got Issues this week?
We are doing a big look at state and local races, because, look, we're focused so much on the presidency. Rightfully, it's hugely important, but this is also a redistricting year. This is an election that's at the state and local level that can affect a lot for the next 10 years, and can affect, the apportionment of congressional districts and so much more.
We just saw that the city council in Portland voted to ban all facial recognition technology from the companies and
these
the police.
Local elections matter. Richmond today banned taking guns to protests.
Yay!
Local elections matter. So we're going to talk about local elections, and it's central to the to criminal justice reform. There's a lot of DA races and sheriff's races and stuff like that actually really are important when it comes to getting some accountability for police.
Thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate having you on, and I appreciate everything that you said here today. Josh Holland, don't forget to follow him on Twitter at Joshua Hall, JOSHUAHOL.
Have a good one.
You too. See you next time. Who knows? Next time, maybe we won't.
Yeah,
no, I doubt it.
I wouldn't count on it. No, it's going to be terrible. Yeah, it's going to be terrible. All right.
All right, Josh, take care. You're watching Act TV. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much. And hello to everyone watching us on Twitch and on Facebook. Follow Act TV across platforms. We do different things on different platforms. So if you like the voice of this kind of work, you can find us all over the place, or you can find me, Julianna Forlano, wherever Julianna Forlanos can be found, like on Twitter or Facebook. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great week. We have another full slate of interesting people and interesting topics next week. I believe David Nyward is coming up next week to talk about QAnon. He's got a new book out. There's a lot of stuff going on. So stick with us. Put a pin in where we are, 10 a.m. Eastern. We are on Act TV's Facebook page at this moment in time and on Twitch. Thanks, everyone, for watching. See you next time.